Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Go Do Your Own Research. We are on to part 6 of my live readings of the Justin Baldoni full deposition transcript. And I have a lot lined up for tonight, some extra stuff to show for some context. There has been a lot of debate online about whether Justin Baldoni is being honest in his deposition when he says he doesn't remember or he had no knowledge of any of the retaliatory operations that were going on. And I personally call BS. Last episode, I showed how much he was involved in the social media and digital behind the scenes campaign that was going on. This time, he also claimed that he didn't know where to find the manosphere. So this time, we're going to debunk some of that. And yeah, I'm not buying it. I don't think he's that dumb. I think this is all an act to try and get out of, again, being accountable for literally his own actions. So on the last episode, we had just started with Mike Gottlieb's questioning of him. And is it going to come up? He was asking him about Wayfarer. He'd already asked him about his own experiences. Oh, it's not. Wait a sec, sorry. It's not showing. He'd already asked him about his own experiences of being harassed in a public place and abused by his own girlfriend, and using both of those experiences that were very sensitive and private moments, he was able to go and talk about them very publicly. So that was how Gottlieb opened up his questioning. Now he's moved on to asking him about his partner, Steve Sarowitz. And they were just talking about some of Steve Sarowitz's apparent ways of thinking and some of the stuff he said publicly, and how he thought that Hollywood was full of gratuitous sex. One sec, I think I just lost. Did I lose my place? He'd asked him about their Baha'i, whether it was Baha'i sect, because they both follow this Baha'i religion. Oh yeah, that was it. So Steve Sarowitz has said that he looks at Hollywood right now, and a lot of it is gratuitous sex, violence, and things that lower the soul. And so Justin Baldoni was asked whether he agreed with that. Well, I have a video clip, would you believe, of Steve Sarowitz lined up for you. I hope it's going to play. And also, I'm on the old laptop tonight, so the sound is a little bit dodgy, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. This is just to break us in. So I've got the subtitles on anyway, but he's on this podcast, and I mean, let's start with this. He's on a podcast by this guy, Samson Schulman, and it's like, how can I put it? Well, it's supposed to be about, it's for people in recovery. It's like, it's about beating addiction and self-help. So I don't know why he's on there. I really don't, but he's on there. It seems to be very part of the manosphere, is what I'm trying to get at. And so the first thing I notice is the way that he dresses with this t-shirt combo. I'm like, is that not how kids dress at school? Like preschool or whatever? And then the slogan of Be Love, like, yeah, I'm so loving, and I'm here, and I'm spiritual, and I'm just this lovely, relatable guy that's coming on this recovery podcast to share my success story. Yeah, so let's hope this works.
Was for me to, I was being 6'6", physically push someone out of the way and say, I can do it better than you, let me show you. I apologized, by the way, to anyone I did that to. What was this, 30 years ago? I apologize. I didn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't do it today, and I'm really sorry. But I wasn't good at delegating. I thought I could do everything better than everyone else. I was young and arrogant. And maybe, what I've learned is maybe you can do something better than everyone else, but you have to let everyone else shine. And the secret to having a really successful business is learning how to step aside and let other people shine, and really find the right people who can shine, and then encourage them and mentor them and show them how they can shine. And if the way to make money is to have people be very productive. It didn't make sense for me to be productive and everyone else to be sitting there kind of stunted because I was busy doing their work. Now maybe they wouldn't be as good as me, but maybe if I let them, they'd be better than me.
And one of the sayings I heard recently, which I love, which speaks to this, is, great leadership is more about being a great.
Once a year I do a program that's for free. I started during COVID.
Please don't tell me that's Tony Robbins. Oh my God. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is the kind of people that are in this space. People like Tony Robbins, people like that that health guy. I forgot his name. But they're scammers. They're selling a dream. They're selling a dream to these people who have been through addiction, or maybe they still are addicted. I don't know. But anyway, let's carry on. They make up a lot of the troll farm community as well. I have personal experience of.
Also in business now is I want to be the wind beneath someone else's wings. So my business partner at Wayfair Studios, who I adore, is Justin Baldoni from Jane the Virgin. And Justin is a very talented actor and a very talented director, and I love him personally. And I think he's really good, especially as a director. And he's about to direct a very prominent movie. It Ends With Us, which is the #1 best-selling New York Times bestseller. It's about a woman named Lily.
Yeah. So this was obviously, Steve, I'm not hands-on the business. I don't have anything to do with the marketing. Going on a podcast to tell them about this movie. Just wanted to say hi to my #1 fan at the moment. Happy MLK Day. I didn't know. Happy MLK Day back at you. That's really interesting that it's MLK Day, because we are going to get onto the subject of race in a minute. I didn't even know that. We're going to talk about Shane Norman. Okay, can you hear this guy speaking okay? I don't want to play it if you can't hear it. I'm not going to have this for too long. But I just thought, he's basically said so far that he was a terrible boss because he thought he could do everything better than everyone else, and that he's pretty much in love with Justin Baldoni, and they're about to make this amazing film, which is a bestseller.
Who has, in her past, her dad was abusive, and now she's met this very charming man who turns out to be abusive. And so Justin is going to direct this movie, and we're very excited. It should be filming in the springtime. And I just love the idea of Justin directing another movie. He's directed Clouds. It was named as one of the best Disney Plus movies. He directed 5 Feet Apart, which did very well. I just think he's going to be really, in the end of it, known as a great director. My goal with Justin is to really be a good partner to him. I'm senior to him. I'm 19 years older, to provide the funding and the encouragement for him to really spread his wings and be. The other thing I love about Justin is when he talks, he's spellbinding, because he's got millions of followers on Instagram, and people are like, oh yeah, I love his whole thing. Like you said, when I was in the room, I was a light. Justin's the same way, in my opinion.
You feel it, yeah.
And maybe more so, because I don't have millions of followers. I just want that light to shine, and I want that light to shine to more people, so people can see this beautiful message he's spreading, which is the same message we're both Baha'is about, the oneness of humanity. And I think he's got Man Enough, and one of the big things with Man Enough is men embracing compassion, and to really show our vulnerability that men don't often want to show, to communicate fully.
That's what Connection is Magic is about.
It was a beautiful TED Talk by a Black woman, I can't think of her name, where she talks about calling people in versus calling people out. And that.
See how he references a Black woman? Honestly, these people are so much about tokenism. Tony Robbins, he does like motivational courses. So he does like those big arenas where you go and buy tickets and you listen, you pay like, I think probably at least £100, and then you sign up for his course. And it's about how to become an entrepreneur. I say it's a scam. One of my friends actually said she signed up to it the other day, and I was like, oh no. I didn't want to tell her, because like not everyone shares my very cynical views, and sometimes it's like too long to get into. So anyway, I just can't believe they just showed me an advert for him. This is how people get sucked in, because they see these adverts. And she's at a point in her life where she has been working in the fashion industry like I used to, and it's dead. So she's like, I need to find something else. Anyway.
That's something that's missing in our society.
Really well said. That illustrates the macro, kind of, to me. That's the macro. What about the micro? I think it'd be interesting. Like, say you have a coworker who, you have hate towards, or somebody took your parking space.
I have a daughter who I adore. I use that word once or twice, but I really do. Everyone.
Okay, this is really interesting, because he's used his daughter to say in this story where he said someone tried to kidnap her and burn down his house. So listen to what he says here, or at least read the subtitles if you can't hear it.
Anyone who knows me knows I have 20-year-old twins. I love them both.
Nice.
David and Sarah. And Sarah goes to Northwestern. And
another thing. He goes on about security. Yeah, he's literally just announced to this podcast, which has, I don't know how many. It's not that big, but I mean, this has got like 13,000 views or something. He's literally just announced what school they go to. I'm sorry, these people are full of ish.
Sarah bought a house, or we actually bought a house for her in Evanston, and Sarah has an issue with headaches. She has migraine headaches really bad, to the point where we thought that the headaches were so bad that we didn't think she'd make it through high school. And she got into Northwestern. We were pleasantly surprised. And
so she doesn't even live, by the sounds of it, in the house that apparently there was a fire at. I didn't even know that.
We bought the house. One of the reasons we bought the house for her is because she needs a quiet place, because she can't have loud noises. So her next door neighbor doesn't know this, and her next door neighbor has been making a terrible ruckus, publicly. There was an article published. She complained when we wanted to do construction. She got all the other neighbors on her side with the idea that
there was an article published about her neighbor's noise. Are you freaking serious?
Daughter, who has massive migraine headaches, like for much of her life, she's had a headache every single day, and that my daughter's been having loud parties, which is literally physically impossible for my daughter to do. On top of it, my daughter is this, the reason why I adore her so much is she's a lovely, kind, considerate, and thoughtful person, extremely intelligent. But the back of her card says, I hope something good happens to you today. And that's who she is. So the neighbor really hates her, but doesn't know her. So I took that upon myself to try to get the neighbor to ease up a little bit. And I thought about it as a father, sometimes, this is me being human.
That's the instinct. So even instinct. For you, that you be love, you're love, Steve, but even you have to fight that instinct. Yeah.
So I had to fight down my first reaction, which was to go to the neighbor and say, do you know who you're messing with? I'm a billionaire. I can make your life terrible.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that.
Right. I'm leaving it there. Because he said my first instinct was to say, do you know who you're messing with? I'm a billionaire. I can make your life terrible. And like, he literally texted that to Jamie and Justin about Blake Lively. And he pretty much said as much to Claire Iab. So, yeah, that's enough of him and his BS. I did make another video ages ago where I showed him talking about how we should listen to women, especially when they bring up sexual harassment. The guy needs to really go and listen back to what he actually said. You think he was accused of misconduct? I mean, he's had a lot of lawsuits. He has. I think he's managed to keep a lot of stuff suppressed. Is Justin like a surrogate son, or does Sarowitz really see him as the Tom Cruise of I'd love to know how their relationship's going now, honestly. I really would. So, should we get on to Shane Norman, or I'm gonna close that one down. That was my intro to Steve. Right. Go back to the. Oh, I didn't want to do that. To share my screen again. By the way, if you're interested in the Steve Sarowitz arson story, I've done quite a bit of research into that as well. I could do like a special on him, but I'm not sure whether it's worth it or not because no one even really knows who he is. Right? That's what I mean. I picked up on all of these little things just from like, that was literally a few minutes. I literally picked up on them. The guy is like a walking PR disaster. I just don't think he realizes it. I don't think he realizes it. And how can he? Because anyone that dares to speak to him, he's like, do you know who I am? I am Steve. I make movies that... Wait, what did he say? Let me just quote him again. I'm holding too many things at once. Oh gosh. Sorry. Lost my face. He said, something about bringing light into Hollywood. I mean, okay. Okay, hun. With your love t-shirt. Oh, yeah. We are He makes movies that uplift our spirits. We want to make art. We want to make art that raises spirits. That's the number one thing. I don't believe it. I don't believe that a guy with that kind of attitude wants to raise spirits. I think that is just an illusion that he's trying to give everybody. I mean, an image that he's trying to project. Okay. Right, so we were at this exact bit. Do you agree with him on the proposition? I just want to read this first before I get on to Shane. Do you agree with him on the proposition that gratuitous sex in Hollywood films is a bad thing? I think where Steve and I would have conversations is, what is gratuitous and what is not? As Steve is somebody who wouldn't even want there to be a cigarette or marijuana in a film, even if it had to do with the storyline. And any sex at all, at times, Steve has felt was gratuitous. So we've had different conversations about that. Okay. So we have to define gratuitous before I can agree with his statement. All right, let's start from the premise of, do you think gratuitous sex, however you define it, not how Mr. Sarowitz defines it? Yeah. Do you think that is a problem in Hollywood films? Objection. There's a lot of films that are made in Hollywood, and I'm not trying to dodge your question, but I just want to be mindful of generalizing. I think that I believe we've put so much sex and sexualized so many things that we've become numb to it. And over time, since we've become numb to it, and I'm speaking as a we, collective we, in order to have more of a shock effect, then I think that's where Hollywood has gone and made, like sex has just become just something that you expect to see oftentimes that doesn't actually have to do with the storyline, or I don't know if it necessarily moves the plot forward. This doesn't sound like the conversation he was having with Colleen Hoover that I read out on the previous episode. So in that sense, I guess I would agree. And I think that in general, Hollywood doesn't make movies for the soul much anymore. It does. I mean, there are certain people that do, but I'm just saying it's definitely become much more about attention and money and just competing with other places for people's attention in whatever can shock them the most is what wins. And you founded Wayfarer to be different from what you just described. Is that right? Objection. I did. You founded Wayfarer to be lights in the darkness. Is that correct? That was a part of the mission. You in founding Wayfarer said that in Steve Sarowitz, you had resources and a partner who shared values and beliefs. Is that fair? Yeah. Do you recall saying about Wayfarer Studios that you and Mr. Heath were making a concerted effort to build a spiritual enterprise in every sense of the word, where everybody is free to have their own beliefs and express opinions that may be different from the executives or the shareholders, where there is true unity and equality across the board, and where we're mindful of the positions of power and how those power dynamics work. Was the question, do I remember saying that? Do you remember saying that? It sounds more like something I've written. I'm not sure if does it sound like something you would write or say? I don't know if I'm that eloquent when I speak. But it sounds like it's definitely in line with something that I believe or aspire to. If I told you that that quote appeared out of a publication on BahaiTeachings.org entitled Wayfarer Studios Aims to be a Light in the Darkness, would that refresh your recollection at all? Objection. That would confirm it was probably something that I wrote versus I said. Okay. And do you believe that you have created a spiritual enterprise where everyone is free to have their own beliefs and express their own opinions that may be different from the executives or the shareholders? Objection. Do I believe I've created it? Along with others, do you believe in Wayfarer Studios you've achieved that objective? To be very frank, I don't know that it's something that could ever be fully 100% achieved. I know we strive for it, but I wouldn't be comfortable saying we've achieved it. Okay, you've strived for it? Strived. Yeah. So, I'm just going to cut to in a sec. There we go. How often does Justin write things? He does. This is what I'm saying. I just think this is all one big act. He really is. He's really gone in to this deposition as like, yeah, I'm just going to say I didn't know anything about it. I'm innocent Justin who just wants to be a light in a dark world of Hollywood. Okay, so let's just talk about Shane Norman for 1 minute. This is Shane Norman's website. Is it showing? Yeah. So yeah, that's him. This is current. This is live right now. Kevin Hart. Both of these guys have been involved in crypto scams and God knows what other scams. Kevin Hart, I did some research into him ages ago. Shifty is not the word. Anyway, he's top buddies with P. Diddy. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Well, we all know about Brad Pitt and how he's one of Matthew Hilton's clients. I'm pretty sure. But look who this is, Justin Baldoni and Man Enough. So let's click on it and see what he says. And he says, there's Justin doing his prayer hands. Justin Baldoni and Man Enough. Role, executive producer, executive vice president, general manager. Year 2020. Justin Baldoni and Man Enough led the relaunch of Man Enough. Relaunch of Man Enough. Yeah? So, do you all know who Shane Norman is? Because I do. He is, let me just show you, because 2020, I have the exact year. I have a picture of him from that exact year. 2020. Zeus Network, Los Angeles premiere. Shane Norman attends the premiere of Zeus Network's One More Chance on October 11th in 2020 in Chatsworth, California. Okay. So I'm like saying to myself, okay, given everything you've heard about being a spiritual light in the dark place of Hollywood, don't know where to find the manosphere. I don't like to use the words toxic masculinity if you've read my book. Okay. this guy was hired for a purpose to relaunch the Man Enough podcast, yeah? So that's him in 2020. And I know quite a bit about Zeus Network, and I know for a fact it's as toxic and exploitative as it gets. Because I've seen lots of content about it. And there was like years ago, I don't know if you've heard of this girl called Christine. And she was with this, she was like a regular girl, college girl, athlete. She started going on this Zeus Network. Suddenly, she started acting completely mad. She had a drugs problem. She was getting into fights in every episode. She lost a tooth. She was with this guy that was beating her up. People were making content about it. This is going back years. This is Zeus Network. This is the stuff that they film and put out. So I was thinking, well, okay, maybe they didn't know that. But maybe they didn't know that's what he was associated with. But look at this. October 19th, 2018, Shane Norman, Lemuel Plummer, and Storm Power, president of Zeus Network, attend the Zeus new series premiere party. This is their premiere party in 2018. This is when they launched onto, I think they have a streaming deal, or you have to pay to like subscribe to watch their content. Actually, I'm a little bit worried that they might copyright claim this video, but I'm hoping I can get away with it because it's a trailer. So yeah, that's on October 19th, 2018. And it's sponsored by Ciroc vodka, which, as we know, or some of us know, was P. Diddy's brand, but he lost his deal in 2022 or 2023, I think. Yeah, so he has been involved with these people from the start, is what I'm getting at. And I'm sure that Justin and Steve would have seen this on his resume. I don't know how they couldn't have. But yeah, so let me just show you. This is the content they were putting out in 2018. Actually, wait, there was one more photo. There was one more photo. This is a bit more recent. This is a bit more recent. But it says, network founder Lemuel Plummer, along with cast members Natalie Nunn, blah, 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 were in attendance. Network executives in attendance included Janisha John, LJ Plummer, Jason Tolbert, Kiana Reen, and Shane Norman. Okay, so he's an executive. He's a network executive. I'm just giving you all the facts. Okay. Let me go back to the clip. Right, let's watch this. Wait, I'm not sharing it. Share this tab instead. Okay. I wish one day I'm going to get really slick at this. Okay, let's hit play.
Gotta get lit. Oh yeah! Funky! Let's dance strippers. Okay. Male strippers. Wait, none of you guys have ever been to a sex shop. Look what I got! guys joined up here? Because we came over and ended up falling asleep, but I didn't sleep with him. I promise. Pinky promise.
Y'all know I like to eat. Did one of you fart?
That's like a cockfest.
Tequila!
Slow down. Slow down. What the fuck?
Yeah, so that was called Pretty Girls Lit. Stop sharing. Okay, so I just wanted to go back to what Justin did. Sorry, Shane did. This has got him written all over it. I see your comment about the Bad Girls Club. To be honest, I'm not being funny. I know people like this kind of content. Yeah, it's like reality TV, like Love Island. Like my daughter watches Love Island. Yeah, like I get people like that stuff, but it's so damaging. Christine Rock, they took her down hard. I agree. It's like, I just remember like a few years ago, there was all this content about her and like everyone was talking about it and saying she's in a toxic relationship with this guy and she's clearly drunk and out of it and they're fighting and it's all on camera and now they've got a kid and it's like, it looks like you're just watching it on the screen and you know, these are young people that are told that they're going to be made rich and famous and the next thing, that's their life, you know, total train wreck and everyone's laughing at them. So I personally find it very exploitative and toxic, literally toxic. I don't know how I don't know what they were thinking employing this guy, knowing this is the kind of content he's associated with. And you know what is going on now with these like bot houses, OnlyFans? It's all exploitation. Because they'll get like one girl to be saying, yeah, I make so much money doing this. And then they believe it. Right, I'm going to get rid of some tabs because make sure. Right, so I've shown you all the images of him associated with Zeus Network. So you know he's been working with Zeus Network since the start in Hollywood. Right, this is what he did as the rebrand of the Man Enough podcast, yeah? Justin Baldoni reveals new book undefining his masculinity. Pre-order. We're excited to announce that our co-founder, I'm not going to read it all, but look at this bit. Partnered with Los Angeles Black-owned independent bookshop, ISO One Books. The book invites us to move beyond the scripts we've learnt since childhood and the roles we are expected to play. Justin challenges men to be brave enough to be vulnerable. I feel like these words, I've heard them somewhere before, maybe every time he opens his mouth. To be strong enough to be sensitive, to be confident enough to listen, encouraging men to dig deep within themselves. Justin helps us reimagine what it means to be man enough, and in the process, what it means to be human. Pre-order the book now. So then we've got his wife is very pretty, but very pretty white family there. Moving on down. This was when I was like, no, they're having an effing laugh. Because this is what I call toxic positivity, and I believe it's a real thing. And when you're talking about like racial conflict, activism, doing something with meaning, activism is about complaining. And then they've literally got a whole thing here about complaining negatively rewires your brain, but gratitude can bring you back. Did you know that most people complain once per minute in conversation? That's because negativity is as common as the cold. But not everyone. Let's complain and control the conversation. Do you know who I think complains a lot, an awful lot in their text messages? Justin Baldoni. We get it, there's plenty to be upset about, life is hard, but complaining only makes it worse at a certain point very quickly. And while venting frustration may feel good at first, neurons in the brain, pseudoscience alert, grow closer together each time you do it. I don't believe that is scientific fact. Building a bridge that makes it a little easier to cross over to complaining. It can get to the point you may not realize you're doing it. Similar to the constant dopamine drip you've grown accustomed to getting when you receive likes on social media. Or you hear the sound of an incoming text. It just becomes part of your daily habit. Are you man enough to step back from toxic friends? Times like these, it's never been easier to complain. Unemployment, homelessness, and racial tensions are all at new highs, while the economy, our ability to pay the rent, and the quality of life appear to be at all-time lows. But you don't want to complain about that because that's going to rewire your brain to be negative. I don't know. Is it me, or does this feel like serious brainwashing? Anyone could make a full-blown hobby out of complaining in a time when there's no end of things to complain about. It starts small, but quickly it begins to affect those closest to you. And it's highly infectious to people who are forced to absorb that negative energy. But who can stand that for long? Well, obviously your friends can. Obviously your friends on the group chat can. Anyway. Shall I read more or not? It's you get the picture. Psychologists have described the happiness exercise as a great way to find gratitude that not only brings in happy thoughts to replace negative ones, but it's a great habit to get into that can rewire your brain back towards positivity. Okay. A lot of these issues that he's talking about are very real physical things that people actually have to go through. It's not just about how your brain's wired. Anyway, it gets a lot worse. Big man, tiny habits, baby stepping your way to a solid routine. This is really giving manosphere to me. I don't know about you. It's giving serious manosphere. Look at all the hashtags. Baby steps, best dads, big man, tiny habits, black celebrities, black men, black role model, fatherhood, fathers, dads. S word. Silicon Valley unaliving? What? Toxic masculinity. But then they've got a lot of black guests on, I noticed. I'm not going to read all of it, but black activist Curtis Hayes stands in the middle to find a better way. Black activist. I'm sorry, activists do not go out and give speeches saying, I'm not complaining. they're literally preaching, getting people to understand how they're being mistreated, how their rights are being taken away. That is complaining. I think there was just one more thing I was going to show. There's Justin. We are man enough. 539,000 followers. I don't know if they're all real, but it's a lot. Look, racial protests, racism, racist protests, police brutality, police brutality photos, police brutality pics, social justice, support Black Lives Matter, viral video. The unwritten rules for black men that you may not be aware of. Man Enough is all about the real, hard, honest conversations of men. One of the hardest conversations today involves the unique challenges that black men face in this country every day. This viral TikTok video, which doesn't seem to be there anymore, encompasses many of the unwritten rules that black men adhere to daily in order to avoid the risk, imprisonment, and physical danger, or, in the case of George Floyd, death. These rules are commonly known to the black community, but perhaps they're not well known to you. Now you know. Do you think this is why some of Justin Baldoni's supporters said that Blake Lively telling Jamie Heath not to look at her when she was undressed racist? I'm just saying. I'm not disputing that we have serious racism, but just because someone is black, you can still criticize them. Just because someone is white, you can criticize them. It doesn't matter. If you're not being prejudiced towards their race, then criticism is valid. Anyway, it seems to me that they definitely, well, not definitely, I'm not going to say definitely, it seems to me like they employed this guy to engage with a black male audience. Man Enough episode 1. Why don't men talk? I was thinking Justin definitely doesn't fall into that category. Look at that. Mass incarceration, overcrowded prisons, black injustice, black community. So I don't get how you can say we shouldn't be complaining. I don't get it. Anyway, what else have I got to show? I've done that one. Okay. So then I've shown the video, yeah. I found a Reddit post because I was Googling Shane Norman Wayfarer. and the black activists that tell black people not to complain about discriminatory institutions are Candace Owens and other conservative cooks. Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Candace Owens, she's a whole flippin'. She doesn't give me some. Look, I definitely have a lot of black friends. Yeah, I'm very close black friends, and Candace Owens definitely doesn't give me the vibe that she has anything to do with black activism. In fact, she's the opposite. Didn't she stand up with? That was the first time I ever heard of her, was when she stood next to Kanye West and they wore t-shirts saying "White Lives Matter," and I was just like, I couldn't even believe that was real. I just was like, whoa. We've entered a whole new landscape, to quote Jed Wallace, was how that struck me. I was like, Jesus, Kanye West. I can't believe I used to be a fan of that guy. Stock photos of a black couple do not make it seem weird this caveman is a black-owned bookshop. Right, yeah, I didn't click on the link, but it wouldn't surprise me. It's giving performative, and it's giving, look, people, we love black people. You're waiting for the Justin Baldoni Logan Paul collab. Maybe Andrew Tate. Well, it's funny you should say that, because Jed Wallace collabed with Jed Wallace's client Adam Ross collabed with Andrew Tate, so they're not far off of it. But yeah, unfortunately, I feel like he's not that far off of it already. Shane was their token. Steve employing Heath and Norman was supposed to be Wayfarer's shield. Right, so let me show you this Reddit post quickly. It was on It Ends with Lawsuits. And it was written by, and it's funny because I've mentioned a few times that if you ever go and look at these Reddit posts about this case, you will just be amazed at how ill-informed they are. And then there'll be people going, oh, thank you for telling me that, because I couldn't be bothered to go and look it up. But yeah, so this is written by Dear Kaleidoscope 2, and it says, it was 10 days ago, and they're talking about Shane Norman because he's been mentioned in the deposition. And it says, I believe it's Shane Norman. He even created an account for the sole purpose of stopping any conversation surrounding him/his case in the pro-victim space. And I'm like, are they talking about this subreddit? Because I wouldn't call it pro-victim from what I've seen. I thought he was a victim. The women in that sub were defending him while talking shit about Justin. I don't know if they're talking, I really don't know what they're talking about, but anyway. I would be happy about that if I were in his shoes. They're talking badly about my former boss whom I tried to sue. So is she talking about the Baldoni Files subreddit that posts more pro-Blake Lively content? Because every other sub, it would seem, is on the Justin Baldoni side. Maybe that's what she means by it's a pro-victim space. Then I saw Jamie's deposition and it clicked. Mr. Norman doesn't want anyone to dig into the details of his case. I mean, the details of his case were actually released in March of 25. It was actually published in some big, details of it were published in some big articles. It's just no content creators were talking about it, so it kind of got overlooked. But also, I wanted to know, how does Dear Kaleidoscope know that they created an account? Was it really them? I don't know. Anyway, I saw Jamie's deposition and it clicked. Mr. Norman doesn't want anyone to dig into the details of the case, especially the pro-victim, pro-women sub. Not good for him or his business. I mean, I'd say his business is going pretty well because he's got Ray J on there. He's done multiple different TV series of this type of content that I show. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's done that thing with Floyd Mayweather. That's on his. I had a quick look on his Facebook. The guy created a website in 2025. Justin's face is on there and literally taken up the entire screen. I saw that and things started to click again. Then I saw that he dropped his case. Then things really started to click. And I'm like, there's a lot of clicking going on. I don't really know where you're going with this. Just like Claire Ayer, we won't be hearing anything from this guy. That would require him to tell the full story, the truth. Claire's story was crumbling in Jamie's deposition too. And then there's a comment that says, this is why they went after Natasha's video and tried to get Jamie silenced for trial. I don't think anyone's trying to get Jamie silenced. I don't think the goal was silencing. The goal was humiliation and punishment. I assume that he wants the conversation shut down for the same reason that he withdrew his suit. Wayfarer Parties, his lawyer, WP, his lawyer? I don't know what that means. Probably said to his lawyer, they don't proofread their comments. Okay, sue us for racial discrimination. We got lots of receipts about how many women complained about his behavior, and we're happy to put those all on the court docket for all your future prospective employers to see. So he's still regretting taking the first shot. At least props to him for wisely cutting bait when they pulled out the receipts, unlike any other plaintiff. Then someone else responded, I'm not entirely sure of his motives in replying to that exact comment. The one deleted, it called him a gay black man, whose case is filled with allegations of homophobic slurs from Heath. The way he stressed being married with, count them, 5 kids, and for said Kitty lawyer to correct her comment to reflect that makes me think he was more concerned with another aspect of what was said in that particular comment. I honestly don't think he could give a flying F what people are saying about him on Reddit. I really don't. But anyway, so then there was an ETA pic of deleted comment. So I clicked on it. Because, you know, this is what doing your research involves sometimes. You have to go deep into the mud, into the weeds. So apparently, it's been redacted. Oops, get rid of that. I don't want to dox myself. I think there are 2 prior cases involving black men suing Wayfarer Craig Hodges, described here, and Shane Norman, the gay black man hired as managing editor for Man Enough, who sued for wrongful termination. Both of those cases are full of allegations that Heath in particular made anti-black and homophobic comments. If the racism or the "it's our religion" defense are tried, I'd guess that the BLT might be able to present these other cases as a rebuttal of those. More interestingly, the prove a pattern of employment complaints and loose compliance with employment law. I agree with that. A knowledge of the laws and suggest an expectation that strict HR oversight was needed. These set up some interesting arguments. It's also interesting how the stories are being entirely suppressed each time they are posted or re-released, relegated to sites like Lipstick Alley. Court proceedings are still available. Finally, it's of note that as recently as 2022, the Wayfarer and Baldoni team was represented by a long list of more reputable attorneys, including very big firms. Yet none of these lawyers are to be found in the BL cases or lead up. I wonder what happened there. Well, we know what happened there. Melissa Nathan literally talked to Justin with her motherly and trustworthy ways into hiring Brian Friedman. That's what happened there. Were any of these other lawyers of record involved with the situation prior to BF coming on board? I mean, the other thing I will say about this bit is Steve Sarowitz is no stranger to being sued. So the fact that he was prepared to go along with Brian Friedman when he obviously did not do his due diligence, or if he did, then he doesn't have very high standards, says a lot. Okay, so guess what I have? I have the actual lawsuit docket. It's that simple. Unfortunately, it's not on Court Listener, I don't think. So, yeah, I can't, it's not very easy to read. But it says it was filed in November 21. Sorry, December 2020. So yeah, that was why I showed you what was going on in December 2020. It was for wrongful termination. That's what he sued for, wrongful termination. Okay, so this is where I'm saying people in Reddit comments, do not ever trust them because they don't know what they're talking about most of the time. There was actually, I did have the other, I think I closed the tab by mistake. I wonder if I can get it up again. I actually had the case of the other guy. Let me see if I can find it. What's his name? Craig Hodges. Yeah, Craig Hodges, that's it. I had an article about Craig Hodges. Craig Hodges was the other person who they had a dispute with over a movie, and he's black because he wanted to use an Indian director, and Justin Baldoni and Steve Sarowitz wanted them to use a black director, and he was like, no, I want to use this guy. That's what I think it said. Let me quickly check. But anyway, before I do that, I can just about read that it says Shane Norman, an individual versus Wayfarer Entertainment. All parties and their attorneys of record, please take notice that the court has stayed this action in its entirety. This was on December 22. Advanced and vacated the trial date of December 5th, 2022. The final status conference date of November 17th, 2022, and the hearing on demurrer with motion to strike of November 19th, 2021, and scheduled a status conference reappeal for December 12th, 2022 at 11 in Department of Stanley Moss Courthouse. Plaintiff's counsel is ordered to file a detailed status report and hereby does give notice. Oh, that was the December 20. No, it wasn't. Sorry. I don't know what that is. It doesn't really show you a lot, but I forget what the outcome was, but I don't think it's what they're saying in that Reddit thing. So yeah, that was that. Then we have a Deadline article. I don't know if that was the one I was looking at before. Yeah, I think it was. Okay. So we have a Deadline article from September 27th, 2024. So this was obviously before the lawsuit, which was in December. Former NBA star Craig Hodges locked in fight with Justin Baldoni's Wayfarer over documentary rights. 3-point expert has spent much of the last 12 months trying to get the rights to the project back after it was shelved by Wayfarer last year. There are financial issues at play. But this latest skirmish also raises the question of race and who should be allowed to tell the story of a black man like Hodges. In his book, Hodges claims that he was blackballed, I guess, from the NBA in the early 1990s for using his platform to stand up for justice, and was unable to find another team after he was cut from the Bulls. In part, he says, because he criticized fellow black athletes who failed to use their considerable wealth and influence to assist the poor and disenfranchised. When the Chicago Bulls were invited to the White House in 1992 after their championship win, a dashiki-clad Hodges delivered a handwritten letter to President George H.W. Bush demanding that he do more to address racism and economic inequality. Oh, this is such an annoying website. Initially, Hodges began working on the documentary, which has hard-working titles including The Lost Dance and Whiteboard, with British Indian producer Jivy Singh. Wayfarer then came on board to finance it. After the first director involved fell through, Hodges wanted Singh to direct and produce via his IFF content banner. What did Wayfarer say? Then, that's when things started to go wrong. There were early disagreements about the creative path of the documentary. Hodges believed some of this involved making his story more palatable for the NBA, a claim that Wayfarer denies. When I met Jivy, I realized he wanted to do justice to my book with an accurate portrayal of the time frame that the material covered. However, Wayfarer's involvement started a creative debate about framing Craig Hodges in a palatable way that the NBA would accept, which isn't the essence of my book, Hodges told Deadline. Wayfarer never seemed interested in that version of the story. Justin Baldoni was definitely interested in virtue signaling and piggybacking off the hype of The Last Dance, but a lot less interested in the true weight of responsibility that came with accurately depicting the realities of being a black man in America. Baldoni and Wayfarer's CEO Jamie Heath, who is black, wanted someone other than Singh to direct the documentary. The pair set their sights on Kirk Fraser, a black director who helmed the ESPN doc Without Bias about Len Bias, the college basketball player who died 2 days after going second in the NBA draft. Fraser, who was born in Jamaica, has also directed docs such as History's Tuskegee Airmen Legacy of Courage. In a Zoom call reviewed by Deadline, which received permission to use the comments, Heath and Baldoni tried to convince Singh he wasn't the right man for the job due to his ethnicity, nationality, and experience. I promise you that as much as feel you know, I promise you that as much as feel you, no one knows Hodges' life better. No one knows it better than me. What? Oh my God. This is Jamie Heath talking. I promise you that as much as you feel no one knows Hodges better, no one knows it better than me. I'm his age, I've experienced it and walked through it. You might be a wonderful filmmaker, but the story is something, there might be some blind spots for you, Heath said on the call. Singh replied, we're all going to have our own subjective perspective, Jamie. Wasn't I literally just reading how they believed that everyone should be allowed to give their opinion and have different perspectives? That was their mantra of their company. We're all going to have our own subjective perspective, Jamie, but I asked you to articulate those nuances to me, and you said to me, and I thought this was slightly disingenuous, rather than articulating them for me and allowing me to grow and understand. You said to me, Jibby, if you'd have experienced this, you wouldn't need to ask that question. To me, that felt like obfuscation, rather than you trying to inform and illuminate me what it was that I was missing. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do that. Oh God, Baldoni then added, racism in America is so unique to America that most people don't quite understand it. You're saying this to a black man or an Indian man? Are you actually kidding me? So when Jamie, as a black person, tells you as a non-black person, oh, if you'd experienced it, you wouldn't have to ask that question. I'm sorry, I've seen black people be racist to Indian people. What the actual is going on here? You wouldn't have to ask that question. It's coming from 50 years of pain and racism of being thrown out of a swimming pool when he was 7 years old. And the white people had to drain the pool because a black person touched it. It comes from a place you don't know. We as people who are not black can never put the emphasis on the black people to tell us and teach us. This is a very important thing of why it's unique to America, why the director does need to be black, I believe, and from America, he added. The conversation touches upon the question of whether someone who isn't a black American can accurately portray the black experience in America. Hodges believed so, but others, including Heath and Baldoni, disagreed in this instance. I would also say that Justin didn't feel like it fitted with his brand at that time, which was clearly trying to be down with black people. Justin is not down with black people in an authentic way. I just know. He's never gone to black clubs. He's never hung out with black people, like all black people. Like, he's never been into black culture. I just know it. He's so white. I'm just blown away by that. I'm just blown away. Right? Exactly. He wanted to be, I mean, it's just all like, this is why people who still support him, I'm like, can you not see how obvious this is? He takes a story and then he becomes the spokesperson for the person whose story it is. That's his thing. That's his whole pitch, his whole brand. No, he doesn't care about black people. And you know what? the Baha'i religion, because I looked at their website, I did quite a lot of research into Jamie and the Baha'i faith. They have a whole thing on their website saying that we don't see racism, we want to draw a line under it. And they have this woman telling a story about how she sat next to Ku Klux Klan people in the church, and they were really nice to her. I call it gaslighting or brainwashing or something, blackwashing. Is there such an expression as blackwashing? Okay, I think that's all I had to show for now. I think we've got the picture. They've been shown up several times for being the complete opposite of what they give public statements about being. Let's carry on. I did actually read this before, but, you know, where they're asking Justin about his responsibilities and he's trying to be funny. I don't know why I keep losing my place. I really wasn't expecting that. I'm sure I looked at it, but it must have been a while ago and I had kind of forgotten. And it's like, the more that comes out about them, the more that everything starts to make sense. And the thing that blows my mind is that that was an article in Deadline from September 2024. Again, I don't remember anyone talking about that. I don't. I read that bit. So Justin said that he thought the premise is off because he was asked if he supervised essentially everyone who was on the set directly or indirectly. And also what they're going to lead into is that Justin sat in on his HR training. And so he understood exactly what the rules were. Anyway, I might gloss over a little bit of it because we did read it before. One of the director's jobs is to bring on a great team, and each of those team members have responsibilities. I think it would be impossible for a director to manage everybody. So there are department heads and producers and executive producers and all kinds of various jobs that each have people reporting under them and that each have their own responsibility. So like if you know something happened to an extra, I don't know if that's ultimately the director's responsibility. It is if you're the chairman of the company. It is your responsibility as the chairman of the company to make sure that you have an infrastructure in place that if something happens to an extra, the person who's responsible for them knows what to do. It's like he's literally acting like he's brain dead. I'm sorry. If the catering was cold that day, I don't know if that's the director's responsibility. If a stunt person was killed, I mean, he's just longing it out again. So I'm going to go. What about what the director does? Objection. Who is responsible for that? Could you be more specific? Well, the director is not responsible for the caterers or the stunt doubles, but what about the director? Is the director responsible for what the director does? Yes, of course. I was just answering your question to the best that I could and making sure I wasted as much of your time as I could. Okay, so we can at least agree that as the director of It Ends With Us, you are responsible for what you did on the set. I was responsible for a lot, yeah. What you did, what some other people did, that we'll have to define as we go through the day, but not everything. Is that fair? Objection. Not solely responsible for everything, but responsible, of course. I'm the director. Oh my God, by this point, I just want to punch him. I'm just sick of him. I've never punched anyone. But I was just joking. Okay. Okay, did Wayfarer Studios have policies and procedures that were in place during the filming of Ends With Us? Objection. Policies and procedures? Any policies and procedures that were in place? I believe so. And those policies and procedures applicable to you as the director of the film to the best of your knowledge. Objection. You have to be more specific on what policies and procedures that you mean. They did the same thing with Jamie Heath's deposition. Just spending ages trying to pretend they didn't understand what their own policies and procedures were when Gottlieb was not having it. He was like, I'm going to show you exactly what your policies and procedures are and show you that you approved it and that you understood it. Mr. Baldoni, you've been handed a document marked as Exhibit 20. It's a document bearing the Bates number Wayfarer 139046, blah, 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 blah. It's a lengthy document. Am I on this document? Take a look through the first few pages, and the first thing I'm going to ask is if you recognize it. I haven't looked at all of the table of contents of it. You flip through it. Would you like me to look at it then? There is not going to be a quiz on it, I promise. So basically, it's the employee handbook that him and Sarowitz signed off on. And there's an inductory letter written by him and Sarowitz as the chairman and co-chairman. You are the co-chairman of the studio, is that correct? That is correct. There is no other chairman of the studio you're aware of? Objection. Just Steve Sarowitz and myself. What are the responsibilities that go along with being, to the best of your understanding, the co-chairman of Wayfarer Studios? My responsibilities? Any responsibilities that you believe apply to you? My responsibilities are to help select and pick who I believe, listen to this bit, along with my co-chairman, to be the best managers for the company. Remember when Shane Norman said that was his role? It's still on his website. To help the company in its creative direction. More bird's eye view of ideally, hopefully, where we're going. And then to consult with, to help the company in its creative direction. Yeah. And then to consult with the CEO, Jamie Heath, and president and upper management. And my specific responsibilities are also to help with creative for the various projects that we have. Okay, based on my time. You say in the cover letter that you and Mr. Sarowitz have written for this handbook a reference to Wayfarer Studios being a Baha'i-inspired organization. Yes, we were talking a little bit about that before. It's not a yes. This is consistent with what you previously testified to. Objection. Yeah, oh, that was a question. This is consistent with what you previously testified to? Yeah, I did not remember. So he's caught in a lie, look. There is... You see in the cover letter that you and Mr. Sarowitz have written for this handbook a reference to Wayfarer Studios being a Baha'i-inspired organization. But then he says, yeah, I did not remember. We had many conversations about actually not calling it a Baha'i-inspired organization. So I think legally we did not, but it's in your handbook. And that was mostly because we didn't ever want to make anybody feel like they were working at a religious company. So I believe an early version of this did not have it on there, which is where my memory was coming from. But I do see it here, and I don't deny that. Okay. Are you aware of a later version of this handbook in which that was removed? I'm not aware of a later version. I imagine this is the most recent version. I believe there have been different versions of this various letter over the years. And when you say legally you are not a Baha'i-inspired organization, I'm not going to be asking you for your legal opinions during this deposition. No, no, no. What are you saying? It was just in the starting of an organization as it relates to the Baha'i faith. We did not want our company to in any way be a part of the Baha'i faith as an organization. I see. Only with backdoor payments, maybe. So that's essentially what I mean, is that because the Baha'i faith's internal government, if you will, is different than maybe like the Catholic Church or other Christian organizations, there is a Baha'i organization that actually is a government in the Baha'i faith. And we did not want a company to be legally tied or associated with an official Baha'i organization. I understand. So that was what the debate and the conversation around like a Baha'i inspired organization and what that actually means. No one actually asked Justin. Okay, do you see where you've written with Mr. Sarowitz? This handbook has been written. The policy that is directly in front of me, I don't know if I have read this policy. Okay. So do you know if you have ever had any kind of training on this policy? This anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, and anti-retaliation policy? Yes, I believe I have. When was that? I think every couple of years. When was the last time you attended one? In person? At all? Oh, I think I jumped a paragraph. Never mind. Virtually or in person? Virtually. I completed mine last week. Okay, for this year? For the year 2025, yes. Prior to that, do you recall the last time? I don't know why he did it. I've got business there. Joking. Prior to that, do you recall the last time you had training on this policy? I imagine it was 2 years before that. Do you recall there ever being a training on anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, or anti-retaliation during the production of It Ends With Us? Yes. Did you attend that training? I did. Did you attend that training in person? Yes. Where was it? In our production offices. On the set in New Jersey. Not a set, but the production offices in New Jersey. Okay, the production offices in New Jersey near where the strike that. All right, it's a bad question. Okay, we'll come back to that. During that training, do you remember going through examples or scenarios of types of conduct that would be a violation or a potential violation of this anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, and anti-retaliation policy? I can't remember specifics, but I do. That was the bulk of the harassment training. Was there a presentation? It was a man, yeah. We were in person, but the man was over Zoom. Okay. So he was shown slides. Do you see at the top of page 5 in the second paragraph, second sentence, the sentence, Wayfarer Studios strictly prohibits discrimination, harassment, or retaliation against employees, applicants, or any other covered person? I see that. And that's the Wayfarer Studios policy, right? Yes. Do you agree with it? Yes. You've done your best to follow it? I've done my best to follow it, yes. Do you see a long list of characteristics that under the Wayfarer Studio policy are protected? Objection. May I read it? Sure thing. I've read this paragraph. Okay, you've read the paragraph that lists out the protected characteristics, correct? Yes. So you see that gender is protected? I do. You see that sex is protected? Yes. And you see that further includes pregnancy, breastfeeding, childbirth. I do. Do you see that height and weight are also protected characteristics? Height, weight, and yes. And do you see in the next line down, after that paragraph, the sentence that says, all Wayfarer Studio employees, officers, principals, agents, workers, and representatives are prohibited from engaging in unlawful discrimination, harassment, and/or retaliation. Yes. And you were an officer of Wayfarer Studios, is that correct? As co-chairman, I believe I am. And you were also an agent or an employee because you were hired to be the director of It Ends With Us. Objection. Yes. And you certainly represented Wayfarer Studios in your role as co-chairman, right? I believe I am. And in fact, you and Mr. Sarowitz are the highest people in the hierarchy of Wayfarer. Is that right? Objection. Yeah. Ultimately, the CEO and upper management answer to you and Mr. Sarowitz. Is that right? Ultimately, yes. In other words, if you and Mr. Sarowitz decide that, you had it with Mr. Heath, it's your decision whether to get rid of him, right? Yes. Do you want to tell him or should I? What? I think you should. It would go over smoother. So, do you see that one paragraph down from the sentence I just read, the anti-harassment policy? I see that. And do you see where it says, I have not read this, no? So, okay, can I read it? Why don't you read that? I'm going to ask you questions about the next 3 paragraphs. So if you want to read the next 3 paragraphs, then I will ask you questions about them. So back on the previous page, do you see the sentence that reads, Wayfarer Studios prohibits harassment, disrespectful, or unprofessional conduct by any employee of the company, including supervisors, managers, and co-workers. Do you see that? Do you understand what that means? That we prohibit harassment by anybody at the company. Harassment may be verbal, written, or physical conduct. I do. So we definitely read all of this before. I remember it because I don't think we necessarily need to read it all again. I think it's fairly obvious what we're getting to here. Sexual harassment may include a range of subtle and not so subtle behaviors, and it can include sexual jokes. This is for the people at the back. Or innuendo, commentary about an individual's body, sexual prowess, or sexual deficiencies or touching. Objection. I know, I left some words out. Yeah. But do you see the words that I read there? Yes. In this policy, yes. And you've been trained on this as well. I believe I have. And because of that training, you understand that the policy prohibits behavior that has these effects on employees, regardless of whether those effects were intended. Is that right? I believe so, yes. Okay, so then he goes on to supervisor and manager responsibilities, and basically Justin is being made to read from his own policy handbook that he has indeed violated the policies. I think there was a question there. Okay. Let's move to The investigation, you see that depending on what's found in an investigation, Wayfarer Studios will consider appropriate options for remedial actions and resolution, and if misconduct is found, Wayfarer Studios shall take prompt corrective action as appropriate. Do you see that? Yes. Was any investigation of the type described here in this paragraph conducted for the conduct that is at issue in this litigation? Objection. Not until this lawsuit was filed and we were made aware of the conduct. I think they have more than enough evidence to show that he was well aware. So I think your testimony is this lawsuit was filed. You were made aware of conduct. We were made aware of allegations of misconduct. Okay. And then you launched an investigation. Objection. Correct. And is that because, am I understanding you correctly to say, you were made aware of allegations in the filing of this lawsuit that you were unaware of previously? Correct. He said she was going to come out with lies. That's what I heard him say. What are the allegations, as you sit here today, that you understand were made in the lawsuit that you were not aware of previously? Objection. Sexual harassment, retaliation. I mean, there is a very long list that I'm sure you have that you can present me and I can tell you what I was aware of or wasn't. So I will do this to try to be clear and that we understand each other. I understand sexual harassment and retaliation to be legal labels that can include different incidents that might occur that inform those legal labels. Is that how you understand them? Can you say that one more time? Oh gosh, this guy. Let me try it a different way, because that's going to take us down a lengthy rabbit hole that you won't like and your lawyers won't like and I will regret. You said that you had not been aware of allegations of sexual harassment and retaliation until the filing of the lawsuit. Yes. Okay. Do you understand that there were factual allegations that informed Ms. Lively's complaint asserting sexual harassment and retaliation? Can you break down what you mean by that? Do you understand that Ms. Lively's complaint, or this lawsuit that you have said led to the launching of an investigation, that lawsuit included allegations of events that took place on specific dates and times that Ms. Lively asserted constituted sexual harassment and retaliation? Do you understand that? Yes, I understand that. Okay. Is it your testimony that you were unaware of the incidents that were described in the complaint, or is it your testimony that you were unaware that Ms. Lively thought that those incidents constituted sexual harassment and retaliation? Objection. My testimony is that this lawsuit and the New York Times article and the CRD complaint was the first that I had heard of many of these allegations that evidently I was at or a part of, which I completely disagree with whether or not they happened. Yeah, because you said you didn't even read it. So how do you know you disagree with it? That said, the reason we launched an investigation was because this was the first official complaint lawsuit against us. So that investigation happened because it was past the HR complaint situation. It was now an official, very public situation. Is it your understanding of the Wayfarer policy that in order to investigate allegations of sexual harassment and retaliation, that an official HR complaint needs to be filed by the complainant? I'm not sure. In fact, didn't we just look at on page 6 of the policy in the section entitled Supervisor and Manager Responsibilities, There's a line that says, if any supervisor or manager becomes aware of a violation of this policy, they are obligated to report the violation to Human Resources Management so Wayfarer Studios can investigate and, if appropriate, take corrective action. Objection. I see that, yes. So it is actually under your Wayfarer Studios policy. It's not incumbent upon the person who feels they have been harassed to come forward with a former HR complaint. Is that right? This is basic employment law. I believe there's a lot of employment lawyers on TikTok giving their analysis of this case every day. I think they should read that little bit. I don't know if there is another part of this that says there needs to be a formal HR complaint or not, so I don't know. Okay, you don't see one as you're sitting here looking at this page, do you? No, I don't see one. You testified yesterday, I believe, that you've never read the New York Times article. Is that correct? Never personally read it? No. You've never sat down to read the article published by the New York Times, written by Megan Tuhey about the incidents in this case? I did not personally sit down to read it. So, as you sit here today, you do not know personally anything that article says. Objection. No, I would not say that. That's true. You have no personal knowledge from your own experience of what that article says. Is that right? I have personal first-hand knowledge from my attorneys giving me point by point all that was in the article. I would not trust Brian Friedman. I really wouldn't if that's your source. Okay. So let me try it this way, because I don't want to ask you questions about your conversations with your lawyers. Other than what people have told you, whether attorneys or anybody else, other than what other people have told you about what is in the Megan Tuhey article, do you have any knowledge of what is in it? I do. And what is that based on? It's based on reading parts of it. I cannot take this seriously. He cannot be serious. You read parts of it? What parts of it do you recall reading? I remember reading the beginning and then feeling sick. I remember reading some of the details around what I was being accused of. I remember just seeing my private text messages on there and being very confused. I remember reading that they had launched an investigation, or that they had done it was an investigative. She had done this investigation and gone through thousands of documents, but never spoken to me or anyone from our company. Was that troubling to you? That an investigative journalist did a New York Times article on, put my picture and my face on the cover, and didn't ask me any questions about it? I found that troubling. It's important in understanding an event that has happened in talking to the eyewitnesses, right? Objection. Are you meaning when you're an investigative journalist and you're writing for the New York Times? As a human searching for the truth? Objection. If the writer wasn't there, I would assume so. One of the reasons you were upset is that you felt like there were incidents that were described that left out your perspective. Is that right? There were many reasons that I was upset. My question was, one of the reasons you were upset is because there are incidents that were described that left out your perspective on what happened. Is that right? Objection. Yes. Megan Tuhey isn't that kind of journalist, Justin. She's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who helped the victims of Harvey Weinstein. She helped to bring Harvey Weinstein to justice. I would have thought that would have been on brand for you with your allegiance to the Me Too movement that you were just talking about. Okay, relatedly, when Ms. Lively sent her California Civil Rights Department complaint to you through attorneys via you, he's so petty and annoying. Did you read it? No, not that version of it. No. Did you ever read it? Not the initial one that was sent. I think you said yesterday you didn't read Stephanie Jones's lawsuit. Is that correct? No. Did you read Ms. Lively's amended complaint in this case? I did. When did you read that? I think shortly after it was filed. I don't know the month. Okay, back on the policy. And I read the previous version. Not that you asked me. The original complaint? I think there was a complaint. And an amended complaint. 3. Okay. Did you read the complaint that you filed in federal court before it was filed? I did. Did you read the complaint that you filed against the New York Times before it was filed? I did. Everything all the way through? To the best of my reading ability. Did you believe that everything in the New York Times complaint was truthful and accurate? I believed it to be. Did you believe that everything in the complaint and amended complaint that you filed in federal court in the Southern District of New York, everything in it and the attachment to be truthful and accurate? Objection. I believed it to be. Back on the document, page 7, do you see the section on anti-retaliation? Do you see the policy states retaliation against an individual reporting harassment in good faith? For reporting harassment or discrimination in good faith, or for participating in an investigation of a chain of claim of harassment or discrimination is a serious violation of this policy, and like harassment or discrimination itself will be subject to disciplinary action, which might include termination of employment. Acts of retaliation should be reported immediately and will be promptly investigated and addressed. Do you see that? I think I do. Were you trained on it? I believe I was. Do you see in the next section what an employee is supposed to do if they believe they have been subject to misconduct under the policy? I can be a little more specific with my question. Yes. The answer is yes. I was just reading it. Yes. Okay, do you see the sentence says, if an employee believes they've been subject to misconduct under this policy, they may file a complaint with the appropriate agency. Do you see that? Yes. And you see that the agencies, that Wayfarer Studios is directing its employees to file a complaint if they believe they have been subject to misconduct under the policy are the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing and the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Do you see that? Yes. Do you know whether Ms. Lively filed complaints with these agencies? I imagine. Is the CRD complaint this? My question is, what you know? I don't technically know. Okay. I think this is now a good time for a break. We're moving on to porn. Yeah, I don't remember seeing this bit in the... I don't remember that exact bit reading. I don't remember reading that exact bit in the last deposition that we got given. So I think that's a little bit new. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how these people are saying this is a slam dunk for Baldoni. He doesn't read anything that isn't pornographic or filled with pictures. I mean, why is the New York Times responsible for there's so many questions. What did I miss? Justin received an experimental injection that made him temporarily blind and deaf during the Respect the Workplace meeting. It is possible. It's very possible. I'm glad you find him aggravating as well, because I'm really over him. Like, it's the kind of, he's obviously not the most intelligent person in the world, but he has brain. He has a brain, and he has so much advantage, and he's been given so many advantages and privileges, and this is how he chooses to use it. And I find it very aggravating that he's playing dumb, like, because he's acting like someone that hasn't had all this experience and advantage. You're happy I'm touching on the racial aspect of this. It's driving mad. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Oh, thank you for saying I'm articulating it well. I mean, look, I've just had a lot of experience. I live in London. If you grow up in London, you experience being around different races. And we're very integrated. I've tried to make content about it. Of course, we have to deal with racism. You know, I've experienced being next to people, next to my friends or my colleagues, and I've experienced random people on the street making racist comments. It goes on. I'm not blind to it, but it's, what can I say? It's like you can't sort of like just not talk about it because you're not of a different race. Like, I'm never gonna sit here and pretend I know what it's like to be a black person. But one thing I will say is I used to work in the fashion industry. Yeah, the fashion industry is so racist, and it's so full of privileged white, mainly women. Most of the men in the industry are gay. Obviously, the people that control it are white male executives, but the people sort of doing all the jobs that you get to work with are mainly women and gay men. Very few single mothers, few black people. Okay. When I used to go to work in that industry, I would employ people from all different nationalities. It just so happened that they were doing the job that I needed them to do. People would make jokes to me. People would make racist jokes to me about, oh, does everyone that works for you have to have an exotic name and that kind of thing? Like, low key. There's this low key racism that goes on. I'm not someone that sits there and joins in. I will give them a big side eye and let them know what I think about their comments. But yeah, so I do think it's really disgusting how they have weaponized racism, and it's so obviously disingenuous. I'm learning new words every day. Right, sorry, I didn't mean to. I do find these subjects are very, very serious though. What else was said? Okay, I see we've got someone else. Hi, Mandalay. Oh, there's a bot. I don't think those people the other day were bots. They were actually real people. But thank you so much for responding to them, because it was just ridiculous. We were having such a laugh about it. about how I showed my daughter a picture of one of them as well, and that was enough. Like, glad you called out the root of why people hate Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle content is 100% aimed to attract racists. I'm telling you. I even used to notice it when I used to be on Twitter. Like, I guess when she came on the scene, it started with like, again, with fashion bloggers that I would follow, and they would be just going on and on about her. And I'm like, what is so dumb? My problem is, it's like anything you're saying about her, you'd be saying that about any other celebrity. But it just seems to me you're just venting because of her color. Like, that's why I think anyone that criticizes Meghan Markle is aiming to attract racists. Because to be fair, her and Harry, when they lived in London, they did used to genuinely do stuff in the black community. They really made an effort. Like, they actually did some quite good PR. They went to like an estate in South London that I know of. They went to like radio stations. Like, they at least made an effort to do something, which I'm pretty sure most of the rest of the royal family has never done. And when they did that Oprah Winfrey interview and they were asking how dark the baby was going to come out, I 100% believe that's what they said. I'm sorry. That is exactly what they are like. Anyway, let's not get too into that. We're now moving on. We're moving on to Justin Baldoni being asked about his porn addiction. So, Mr. Baldoni, you spoke in public about a pornography addiction. Is that right? I have. You were exposed to pornography for the first time at age 10. Is that right? You must have read my book. I have read some things. You've talked about how that addiction affected your relationship with women. I believe I have. And how in some ways, and you'll use your words, not mine, it infected or polluted your relationship to women. Is that right? Objection. I think I've written when I have spoken about it publicly. It's been in relation to the part of the brain that's fired when one views what? Okay, let me start again. I think I've written when I have spoken about it publicly. It's been in relation to the part of the brain that's fired when one views pornographic images or graphic images in general. Is that even true? That sounds like pseudoscience to me. Okay, I'm most interested in what you said publicly about how, in your view, being exposed to pornography repetitively affects one's view of consent. Do you recall giving a talk called Boys Will Be Human, a talk on healthy masculinity with Justin Baldoni? I wrote a book called Boys Will Be Human, and I imagine I've done a talk or two, yeah, or 3. Should we say 4? Some interviews about the subject of the book. Is this a speech that I gave, or is this an interview that I gave? He really doesn't like having his words that he recorded publicly read back to him, does he? This is during an interview. And ironically, this is what he hired the people that weren't doing a smear campaign to do on Blake Lively, and now he's had it done to him. This is during an interview, and I want to read you what you said. You said when you hit 11 or 12 years old and your friends have a phone and maybe you don't, and you're being shown, maybe because your parents actually were using some common sense and saying, you know what, Justin has to wait until he's an adolescent before he can get a phone. Maybe you don't, and you're being shown things for the first time, and then you start to think, that is what women want. And in porn, as we know, no means yes. Or try harder. It starts to become very confusing, which is definitely something that happened to me. I've got no words for this. I literally have got no words for this. Do you recall ever saying anything like that? I'm sure I did, yes. Oh my God, he's not even disputing it. When you hit 11 or 12 years old and your friends have a phone and maybe you don't, and you're being shown things for the first time, and then you start to think, that is what women want. And in porn, as we know, no means yes, or try harder. It starts to become very confusing, which is definitely something that happened to me. Do you recall ever saying anything like that? I'm sure I did, yes. Is that what happened to you? Objection. When I was sexually assaulted, yes. You said after that, I'm sure, trigger warning, I have crossed boundaries and lines in my teens and 20s, not even thinking about it, simply because of the porn I was consuming. Do you recall saying that? I'm sure I did say it, yes. Was that true? Again, I don't know. I said I'm sure I had, but I have never never not had consent with a woman. It was said in most of my book, and most of my speaking is speaking to men, so that men don't have to feel ashamed of whatever it is they're experiencing. So in that certain situation, I'm not saying that I have crossed boundaries or not gotten consent, but what I'm essentially saying is there's even a possibility that in my teens and 20s, I wasn't aware. This guy, Mike Gottleib, comes in strong, because I was about to do this myself. Well, literally what you said is, I'm sure I have crossed boundaries and lines in my teens and 20s, not even thinking about it, simply because of the porn I was consuming. So that's what you said. And my question to you is, do I understand your testimony to be that you were essentially making that up in order to make other men feel that you were relatable to them? Objection. No, I'm sure I had crossed boundaries in my teens and 20s. I'm sure I have. Oh, this guy. I can't remember whether we heard this before or not. And do you think that was because of the exposure that you had to this kind of toxic pornography? I'm sure that that was a part of it. It was also a different time, and part of why I wrote the book. And that part of why I wrote the book was that consent wasn't taught to boys. What? And I wanted to make sure that we taught consent to boys and men. Oh yeah, I do remember this bit. I do remember it. I just feel like I don't agree. My experience of growing up was not the same. No one talked about sex when I was growing up, but somehow we had an understanding. If I told you, Mr. Baldoni, that quote I just read to you was from a discussion that you had with No More, does that refresh your recollection at all in 2023? I'm sure it was. Okay. Would it surprise you to learn that in a discussion with No More, you said that you were sure that you had crossed boundaries and lines in your teens and 20s, not even thinking about it, simply because of the porn I was consuming. No, it doesn't surprise me. Did you ever consider whether people listening to that conversation with you and No More, is he talking about No More, the DV organisation, might be upset or triggered by that statement you made? Objection. No, as this is a conversation that is about healing, and these are conversations that I've had with the women at No More. And I think anybody that works in this space can agree that pornography, when given to young people, messes with their brains. And we need all hands on deck. So I have no problem being open about what was a pornography addiction in my, early teens and 20s. When did you free yourself of the addiction to pornography? Objection. So I don't have a clinical addiction to pornography. I will start there. This is new. I don't remember this bit. I technically have always been free of addiction. You're not a doctor? To pornography. Objection to, I am not a doctor. But what I'm saying is, I have never been diagnosed with a pornography addiction. It was something that I talked about because I felt I was consuming porn when I was emotional, or in my teens when I felt lonely. Crying out loud. Mixed with like hormones changing and, all of the various things. And I also wasn't exposed like a lot of boys and men are today, because I was born with dial-up modems. Mr. Gottleib, same. Yeah. Justin Baldoni, how many men are there in America that grew up at the same time as you that were not addicted to porn? Maybe if he wasn't hanging out with Scooter Braun and Drake Bell, he wouldn't feel the need to bring up, right? The people he had on that first Roundtable podcast says it all, really. And once I started realizing that Shane Norman was brought in to relaunch the podcast, I'm just not buying it. He's so fake. The Scooter Braun one was in 2018. You think it was at Turning Point where someone, maybe JD Vance, says men will no longer have to apologize for being men? That's what I think about when I hear boys will be men. I mean, look, I know all about I call it the brosphere, the podcast brosphere, the manosphere, the red pill podcast community world space. I'm not even going to call it a community. It's literally about exploiting women. That's all it's about. Every single one of them. They can dress it up and call it whatever they want, but that's what it boils down to. What's his name? Jordan Peterson. His name was always coming up. Yeah, like I said, it goes back to Jeffrey Epstein. Hugh Hefner. They come up with these like psychological excuses, but it's really manufactured reasons to give them an excuse to commercialize that industry. That is what it is. Okay, I've yeah, I've spoken on that. And I mean, look, I was young once, much younger once, and I didn't have the information that I now know around this industry. It's very easy to think it's normal and it becomes normalized into your life. But then once you start really doing your research, you start to realize that there was a reason why it became part of our society. And it leads to a lot of sex crime, and it leads to a lot of violent crime against women. So it just doesn't match with Justin's so-called perspectives. Or if it does, it shows what his true perspectives are. And like Gottlieb's saying, you know, like I mean, look, I'm not trying to be like I'm not trying to be like judgmental to anyone that does have an addiction to it. I know, like, for example, someone I know during lockdown, she broke up with her partner because she found out that's what he was doing. And it's really tough and it's really real, but like someone like Justin should be condemning it. And he just doesn't seem to be doing that. If, you know, that's what I feel. That's what I feel. If he really wants to break down the idea of toxic masculinity. Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I wrong? I'm not a man, but we all experience men every day, and they are going through a lot right now, I can tell you. But I swear to God, so much of it comes from these podcasts, whether it's about how much protein they should be eating, whether it's about how much testosterone they should have, whether it's how many women they should have dated. That's what they're being fed constantly. So Gottlieb, I think, is trying to say that he doesn't have this problem. And he grew up in the same time as him. Oh my God, I cannot believe Justin Baldoni just came out with this. I wasn't ready. So I imagine we were timing our bathroom visits at the same time. So I imagine we were timing our bathroom visits at the same time. So I'm assuming we're similar in age. So I've probably been free of it since I felt like I had one. What? I'd say early 30s. Oh, so he's not addicted to porn anymore. He just wants to incorporate sex scenes into his movies. Okay, but it's fair to say that you have spoken openly and publicly, very openly, about having an addiction to pornography for some period of time earlier in your life, correct? Yes, I was just clarifying because addiction is, you're not a doctor. Can you, so I'm sorry, I just want to ask both of you to wait until the other one finishes. My apologies, I will try harder. Likewise. You attended Ms. Lively's deposition, correct? I did. Do you remember her deposition when your counsel, Mr. Friedman, asked my client the boundary that was crossed? I think there should be an appropriate reconciliation, conversation, atonement. If one partner, regardless of gender to a relationship, romantic, sexual, or otherwise, sets a boundary, yes. Do you believe that boundary is negotiable? No. Objection. Okay, so once the boundary is set, somebody crosses it. You believe that the person who crosses the boundary ought to be accountable. Objection. Oh wait, sorry, I've missed out. I've missed out a bit. Do you remember when you sat in on Ms. Lively's deposition that your counsel, Mr. Friedman, asked my client, it surprised you that Justin never had an addiction to pornography? Oh, I see. So, as far as I remember, and I'm pretty sure she's going to produce the receipts, this conversation was witnessed by her driver. Her driver witnessed him saying something about he violated a woman without asking for her consent or something, and the driver said, I don't want you ever traveling in the car with him alone. That's what I remember. As for his porn addiction, he's definitely said that on podcasts. I have literally made a video with him saying it. Okay, let's ask that again. You attended Ms. Lively's deposition, correct? I did. Do you remember at her deposition when your counsel, Mr. Friedman, asked my client, Ms. Lively, would it surprise you that Justin never had an addiction to pornography? I don't remember that. Do you have an idea why? Objection. Why what? Why would somebody who knows anything about you say that? Objection. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. Do you believe that? You don't believe that having an addiction to pornography absolves men of whatever they do as a result of that addiction, do you? You don't believe that having an addiction to pornography absolves men of whatever they do as a result of that addiction, do you? Really good question. It's like, well, it's like people who say they have drug addictions. And it's like, oh, it wasn't me, it was the drugs. No, it was you. It was you because you took the drugs and you knew the drugs make you act like that. You have to take some responsibility as a man, as a man enough man. Objection, far from it. And you believe men who cross boundaries with women should be held accountable for that, right? I think crossing boundaries is a very general, broad statement. Oh, it's a very general, broad statement now, is it? But if based on whatever the boundary that was crossed, I think there should be an appropriate reconciliation, conversation, atonement. If one partner, regardless of gender, to a relationship, romantic, sexual, or otherwise, sets a boundary, yes. Do you believe that boundary is negotiable? No. Objection. Okay, so once the boundary is set, somebody crosses it. You believe that the person who crosses the boundary ought to be accountable. Objection. Yes. Okay. Do you recall ever talking about a meeting or a moment that you had with Britney Spears? Oh my God. Not Britney Spears. Objection. I think I do. Do you recall meeting Britney Spears on the scene of Jane the Virgin? I do. Uh-oh. Do you recall? I think I've seen this before. Do you recall talking about that and telling a story about how I went up and gave her a hug, or I gave her a hey? I was like, hey. I gave her a big hug. And I think I scared her because she was like, hi. And then I just kind of had this awkward moment of like, did I just harass Britney Spears? Do you recall saying that? I don't recall saying that. But I believe I'm sure that I said it. So, Justin, how do you get out of any accountability? Answer, I don't recall, but I believe I'm sure I did. But if you say it, I probably did. That's his answer to everything. Is that consistent with your recollection of how you remember that occurring, what I just said? I don't remember giving her a hug, but I remember it I think I was way excited, way too excited to meet her, yes. But I don't remember the details of it, but I can't imagine that I was not telling the truth and sharing a story about it. Okay. Poor Brittany, I actually feel sorry for the girl right now, having to go through that. Okay. Have you ever been... She was very nice. Sorry? She was very nice. Okay, I'm pleased to hear that. Have you ever been the subject of a workplace investigation? Like they were investigating me? Investigating any aspect of your conduct at work? Not that I can think of. Prior to the events of this case, are you aware of whether anyone has ever accused you of harassment? To my knowledge, I have never been accused of harassment. I wonder if all the people that say stupid comments about why didn't she say anything at the time, have ever thought that about Britney Spears. Why didn't Britney Spears speak up? Oh, how can any of you support Blake? I mean, it's insane. To be honest with you, Charlotte, it's not really about supporting Blake. It's about I'm reading out the facts of what Justin has said and done over the years. And I'm just not really down with men that treat women like this. So it's not really about supporting Blake. You've got that all wrong. I'm kind of neutral. I'm also very interested in how the SEO manipulation and the smear campaigns go on as well, because I think that's pretty disgusting way to earn a living, especially when it's covering up the death of a woman who was only 22 by a 46-year-old man. But, you know, you carry on supporting Justin all you like, hon. See if we've got any other comments. Jordan Peterson telling boys to make their bed because lobsters evolved to be aggressive. I don't know too much about Jordan Peterson. I know he's an idiot. All these men are the same. They're grifters. Very good at speaking. A lot better at speaking than I am. But, you know, that's where it gets you. Okay, let's carry on. Let's carry on because we're getting to another bit about Steve Sarowitz. Sorry, Claire Iab. Another woman who he apparently harassed. She never said anything. What's wrong with her? Prior to the events of this case, are you aware of any time where you were accused of inappropriate behavior at work? No. Have you ever been disciplined in your time at Wayfarer Studios for any your conduct at work? No. Other than what has occurred in this case, has anyone, to your knowledge, ever refused to work with you on account of your behavior? Not to my knowledge. Wayfarer produced the film Empire Waste. Is that correct? Yes. And who was the writer and director of Empire Waste? Claire Iab. Were you involved in the production of Empire Waste? In a similar way that I'm involved in other productions, yes. Sorry? Yes. What is that way? I helped with the creative. I helped cast it. I helped Claire get the main song for the film. And the editing process, introducing her to a friend of mine. I gave notes on the edit. I approved casting. I helped her find the lead actress by having the idea to make a TikTok video looking for a very specific person. And it was a black woman, wasn't it? That was the lead actress in that. And because of that work, we discovered somebody that was phenomenal. And I just tried to support. I visited set and gave notes when I was there that she found very helpful, I think. It sounds like you did a lot. Not in comparison to what a, like, on the ground producer does, but it's just part of what I do. But do you recall visiting the set? Yes. Okay. Did Ms. Ayab accuse you of misconduct? No. Ever? No. You never heard from anyone that Miss Ayab had problems with your behavior on the set or during the production of Empire Waste? I never heard from anyone that Miss Ayab had problems with my behavior. Even as you sit here today, have you still not heard anything? And again, I don't want to, nothing that you might have learned from your lawyers. So other than conversations you may have had with your lawyers, have you ever heard from Mr. Heath or anyone else at Wayfarer Studios that Ms. Ayab had problems with your behavior during the production of Empire Waste? Again, I'm just trying to be specific to your question. I have never heard that Ms. Ayab had problems with my behavior. However, I am aware that Ms. Ayab had signed a declaration that evidently said that I was abusive to her or something like that. That's funny, isn't it? Sounds a bit like the other story you're telling us. Have you read that declaration? I have. And that's a declaration that Ms. Ayab filed in this case, right? Surprisingly, yes. In the second, in the second paragraph of that declaration, Ms. Ayab writes, I wrote and directed a film called Empire Waste, which was produced by Wayfarer Studios, LLC. Justin Baldoni, a founder of Wayfarer, was producer. As part of my work on Empire Waste, I had repeated negative interactions with Mr. Baldoni and his associates, including verbal abuse by Mr. Baldoni. I asked Wayfarer that Mr. Baldoni not be permitted on set during the majority of production as a result of those experiences. Do you recall reading that? I recall reading that. Did you verbally abuse Ms. Ayab at any time? God, no. I just wanted to see if that Charlotte was still here. Are you listening to this, Charlotte? I gave plenty of notice before visiting. Sounds like he had to warn her before he showed up to ruin her day. Yeah, they both sound like the big I ams, to be honest with you. I'm just calling it how I see it. This has nothing to do with me supporting Blake Lively. I literally showed a clip of video. That was just a random bit of video podcast that he had done where he sounded like an arrogant so-and-so. You know, my first thought was, well, I'm a billionaire. That doesn't sound like someone you can be honest when you feel like you're not being treated well to, when they're your boss and they're paying for the production of your film. But I don't know, maybe they don't see it like that. Right. So it is your testimony that Ms. Ayab is lying in what she's written here. It's my testimony that I did not verbally abuse her. I don't want to call her a liar. Have you ever talked to her about whether she feels that you verbally abused her? I spoke to her many times, especially after what could be considered an incident, and we had a lovely relationship, which is why I was invited to set, and I was very surprised. Did anyone ever tell you that Ms. Ayab had asked to have you removed from her set? No. Even as you sit here today, no one's ever told you that? No, I was never asked to be removed from her set. On the contrary, I was invited. Did you also read in Ms. Ayab's declaration that Empire Waste was set to be released in the fall of 2024, in August of that year. As a result of my experiences with Mr. Baldoni and ongoing press coverage relating to Mr. Baldoni and It Ends With Us, I requested that he not be involved in Empire Waste marketing or public relations effort. Wayfarer agreed to my request. Do you remember reading that? I did. Do you believe that statement is truthful or false? I was not made aware that she did not want me to help promote the movie. Okay, that didn't answer the question. This is Exhibit 21, which is a document bearing date number Heath 31887. Who is Ashmi Dang, by the way? Oh. I think he's about to get busted. Ashmi is the head of marketing for Wayfarer Studios. Okay. And who is Andrew Caloff? Caloff is our head of production and development. Okay. And this is a text message involving Ms. Dang, Mr. Caloff, Mr. Heath, Ms. Angela Carden. Who is Angela Carden? Angela is the executive under Andrew Caloff. Okay. And Tara Hanks. Who is that? Tara Hanks is the president of Wayfarer Studios. Okay, so this is a text exchange involving those people on September 27th, 2024. And do you see at the top of this, at page 3187, the first page of the exhibit, do you see there's a screenshot of a text there? I do. Do you see Ms. Dang shares a screenshot of what she says is Claire's message with the group? Do you mind if I read the whole document? I don't. Okay. Do you see how Ms. Dang has screenshot Claire's message at the top of this text exchange? Yes. And do you see how Claire's message says, genuinely feeling sick. That man was banned from my set. I see that. And do you see how everyone in this text chain understands that that man is referring to you? Yes. Did any of the individuals on this text thread ever inform you that Miss Ayab believed she had had you banned from her set? I'm not sure how she could have believed that. So to answer your question, no. Okay. On the next page at the top, do you see Ms. Dang writes at 1:46 p.m. I'll add during the early days of working with her on the marketing, she called to express how upsetting the experience was for her, and she had language added to her agreement as a result. Do you see that? I do. Do you know that Ms. Dang is referring to... Do you know what Ms. Dang is referring to with the language added to her agreement? This is the first I'm seeing of it. Did anyone ever talk to you about changes that were made to Claire Ayab's agreement based upon how upsetting the experience had been for her? No. Do you see a bit lower down in the text at 5:23 p.m, Ms. Dang says, to close the loop, JB took down and reposted the trailer with updated copy. Yes. JB is you. Yes. Do you, I presume, do you recall do you recall reposting or posting at any time the trailer for Empire Waste? Yes. Do you recall doing that around this time at the end of September 2024? I would imagine that was the time, yes. You earlier said something about what would be considered an incident that had occurred that you discussed with Ms. Ayab. Yes. Here we go. This is Justin rewriting history. What was the incident? Claire and I had a lovely relationship. She was a first-time filmmaker, and I very much believed in the film that she was trying to make. Also, I was made aware that she was very inexperienced. I don't know if she was that inexperienced, Justin. She's had quite a long career of putting on productions. I don't know about films, but I feel like she's pretty confident at what she's doing. So I had offered to mentor her and help her any way that I could. So we went back and forth. We had a few calls, I believe, and I was building a relationship with her from that point. And at the same time, Claire was working with her producing partner to get the budget in line for the movie. Oh, this is, I've actually, yeah, I don't want to spoil it. We had greenlit her movie at $2 million. It was a movie that nobody else wanted. How rude. It was a movie that I believed in the message of very strongly, and I wanted to support her. And we had a partner at the time, which was Procter and Gamble. Yeah. And it was my understanding that the budget had inflated from 2 million to 3, then to 4, then to 5. After multiple conversations with my executive team, she was unable to get the budget down. On a phone call with Procter and Gamble, I imagine there were 8 or 9 or maybe 10 people on that call. And ourselves, we were going through where we are with the budget. Procter and Gamble was not putting much in. We were the majority financiers, and I was very clear with her that we would not be making her movie if she couldn't get her budget down. That was the extent of the conversation. There was no voice raised, no chairs being thrown. It was me simply acting as the chairman at the time. Oh, you knew how to act as the chairman on that time. Okay. Got it. There was no president, or I don't believe there was a CEO. And I just said, where was Jamie then? And I just said, we won't be making your movie unless you get the budget down. And my understanding was that she was very unhappy with that, and that she felt what was relayed to me, that I threw her under the bus, which is also very typical. I mean, directors are unhappy with studios all the time when people won't make their movies for the price. But that was genuinely, that was it. And then I think maybe a month went by and I sent her a voice note. Before day one of filming. I'm sure by now you're familiar with my voice notes. I was just going to say, unfortunately, I am familiar with your 2 a.m. voice notes. Tell me more. Well, there was a voice note around the world. Oh, God. I sent to Ms. Lively that everyone has heard, I guess. Yeah, everyone that goes on TMZ. And I sent her a lovely voice note saying how much I believed in her and the mission. And she responded, and we had a lovely text exchange. And we texted throughout most of the production, to which point I then came to visit. When was the conversation that you had with Miss Ayub that you are recounting here? Before pre-production even began. I don't even know. Before pre-production? Yeah, this was not in the deal. It was not on the, sorry, this was in the dealing making phase, before there was even a contract, Before we had agreed to even make the movie, and you spoke to her like that? Okay. Before there was a set. There was no set, yes. It was on the phone, over Zoom. Nobody else. Oh, nobody else wanted Ms. Ives' movie? No. You saved it? No. Very often people come to us when other studios or companies don't believe in films. And if we believe that it speaks to the mission of why we are here, pause, cough, we will take the risk. You said everyone around the world has heard my voice note to Ms. Lively. I was making a joke, but yeah. So funny, Justin. You're so funny. That's because you released it, right? Sending it wide. Popcorn Planet is my new bestie. Oh no, that was the dance video. Yeah, actually, I did not release that, but you instructed someone to release it on your behalf. Actually, I did not. You knew it was going to be released on your behalf? That's privileged. Okay. Did there ever come a time in August of 2024 where you learned, do you want me to get rid of this, or you're free to do what you want with it? Did there ever come a time during August of 2024 when you learned that there was a woman on TikTok alleging that you invited her up to your hotel room years ago, and some incident that occurred alongside that? I think I learned about that in Ms. Lively's complaint. I think not, Justin, because I seem to remember on my last live stream reading out a text that said something about was that the one where there was going to be dark secrets about you? Okay. But still, there was another text there was a text exchange about it with Tag. Maybe you weren't on it. Anyway. Where was I? Okay, I'll let you have that one, Justin. I think I learned about that in Ms. Lively's complaint. You had not. No one had told you about that in August of 2024? Wait a minute, so... Oh, he did read it. Yeah, he did. He read the second complaint after he'd lost his defamation lawsuit. I have no memory of that. You have no memory of discussing with anyone at Wayfarer, anyone at Tag, or with Miss Abel. Oh, I was wrong. Why did I give him that one? I take it back. Anyone at Tag or with Miss Abel, a social media post alleging that you had invited some girl up to a hotel room years ago. Objection. Like I said, I believe I heard about it for the first time reading her CID complaint. Okay. But if you have anything that can refresh my memory, I'm happy to look at it. But I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, we're getting on to Shane Norman. Have you reviewed that post since the filing of Ms. Lively's lawsuit? I have never seen it. Do you have any idea what this woman alleged? From what I've been made aware since then, that I invited her to a hotel room. Okay. I read that a bit like a question. No, he's saying it as a statement. From what I've been made aware since then, that I invited her to a hotel room. Okay. Do you know whether that occurred or not? I have never invited a woman to a hotel room that wasn't my wife. Have you ever invited a woman to a hotel room before you were married? No, never. You're sure? I wish I was that confident before I was married. So the answer to my question is, you are sure that prior to your marriage and after your marriage, you have never invited a woman in any circumstance, in any capacity, up to a hotel room that you are staying in? Objection. Maybe that's why he uses the alias. Sorry. I am sure that before I was married or while being married, I have never invited a woman up to a hotel room that I was staying in. Okay, who's Shane Norman? Presumably not the woman that you're talking about right now. Who is Shane Norman? Shane Norman is a former employee of Wayfarer Entertainment. And Wayfarer Entertainment was a predecessor company to Wayfarer Studios, correct? And what was your role with respect to Wayfarer Entertainment? Founder, co-founder? What was Shane Norman's role with Wayfarer Entertainment? Shane Norman was brought on by our CEO at the time to assist with the building and the creation of, at the time, which was the beginning of Man Enough. Oh, he said it was the relaunch. The podcast? There was no podcast. It was to help, excuse me, it was to help in the launch of the book Man Enough and to figure out ways that we could do activations and get more men involved. You mean find the manosphere? That's what it sounds like to me. Did you know that Mr. Norman was being hired before he was hired? I knew, yes. I was introduced to Mr. Norman and we had a job interview together. Yes. Okay. You interviewed Mr. Norman? I did. Well, the last interview, because he would be working with me directly. Okay. A number of people interviewed Mr. Norman. You were the final interview. Correct. And you approved hiring him. I did. You thought he would be good at the job for which you were hiring him. He presented fantastically. Okay. And it didn't work out that way, right? Objection. It did not. Mr. Norman was extremely abusive to women. I think you're referring to Mr. Sarowitz's testimony. I am. I don't know if I would characterize it that way. We discovered that he was very combative. And we had been made aware after some time, which we were frustrated. We didn't know earlier that he had made several women cry and he was not listening to their ideas. Sorry, I just had a flashback for a minute. Let me read you what Mr. Sarowitz said and ask you if it's true. Okay. What Mr. Sarowitz, sorry, Mr. Sarowitz, I had to learn to pronounce his name. Mr. Sarowitz said, we had an issue where we had an employee who was extremely abusive to women. It got to the point where each woman that they got in a meeting with was left with tears. Is that a truthful statement about Shane Norman? I don't know if that's a truthful statement. I don't know if every woman that he was in a meeting with was left in tears. Did that statement fairly capture the gist of Mr. Norman's behaviour when he was employed by Wayfarer Entertainment? I can't speak to Mr. Sarowitz's intention with those words, but my understanding was that that is maybe an exaggeration, but very well could be Mr. Sarowitz's view on what happened. I think in situations like this, you need to get your facts straight, Mr. Sarowitz. Would you agree with me that Mr. Sarowitz is a very thoughtful man? Objection. Yes. And you were here during his deposition for at least part of it, right? I was. He considered my questions very carefully before he answered them. You remember that, right? Objection. Objection. I do remember that, yes. And seemed to me he was being truthful and trying to be accurate. Is that your impression also? I'm not saying that he wasn't truthful, but you are saying that he was exaggerating. Objection. I said that in my opinion, having handled the situation alongside him, I wouldn't have characterized it in that way. Do you know, he said a little bit later, that there were many complaints made about Mr. Norman. When I said many complaints, do you know how many? He answered, virtually every woman that they ever worked with. Is that true? It's my understanding that Mr. Sarowitz was not directly involved in any of this outside of when it finally came to our attention from the CEO. So he's free to express his opinion, but as the person that was there, I don't believe that that's a fair understanding of exactly what happened. I think it was far more nuanced than that. Was an investigation performed? I believe so, yeah. Did the investigation corroborate that virtually every woman that Mr. Norman worked with had complained about his behavior? I don't remember the full details, but I imagine it did, yes. Oh my God, he's back to imagining again. Unbelievable. Not like this is really important or anything, Justin. You know, you could literally have looked it up. You could have looked up the records to check. Did the investigation provide a basis for removing Mr. Norman from the position he was in? Yes. Did you agree with that? Yes. Did you review whatever the final report or recommendation was that described Mr. Norman's behavior? Yes. Did you find that informative in understanding what had occurred? Yes. And you found it informative in understanding what had occurred, even though you had been present for a lot of what had occurred. Is that right? Objection. Not correct. You weren't present for any of the incidents that were described in the report of the investigation into Mr. Norman's behavior? I was not. That report was in writing? Correct. Do you know who conducted it or wrote it? An outside group or an outside group of former attorneys who do HR, I believe. Do you know who that was? I don't recall the name. Multiple women. I think it was 2 or 3 women. Was it important to you that it was women who did that investigation? Objection. I don't remember it being important to me. This is so interesting. Someone is definitely not being honest here. They were women. I said women. I hope that answers your question. It does. Do you support Mr. Sarowitz's decision about the employment action to take with respect to Mr. Norman? I did. And you know that employment action meant that he remained on with Man Enough in a consulting or part-time position for a number of months. Yes, and he continued to be paid. Yes, and you supported that. I did. Who is Liz Plank? Liz Plank is my former co-host of the Man Enough podcast. How long was she your co-host? Maybe 3 years? What changed? What changed? What changed that caused her not to be your co-host anymore? I imagine, again, the New York Times article and the entire world thinking I was a bad man. So I remember reading this before, and this was like 2 months ago, I want to say. And my reaction to that is I did not think he was a bad man when I first read that article. I really didn't. I was just like, oh, that's so interesting, because I kept seeing all these stupid videos about Blake Lively and her hair product and all this other nonsense about her and the little bump incident. And yeah, my mind wasn't immediately drawn to, oh my God, Justin is a bad man. Like that. That's only been way more recently. And it just shows to me how his mind goes to the worst case scenario in a heartbeat. Charlotte, I don't know why you're here. Honestly, Blake has smeared Justin. Can you show us some evidence of that? I'm talking nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. Well, don't listen to me then. You can't listen to me? Why are you here? Why are you literally coming into my live chat saying you can't listen to me when you can literally click off the video? I'm a man hater because I get rejected too many times. Listen, I think most women, myself included, I think it's the other way around, actually. It's not really hard for a man to approach you. In fact, I try and keep my DMs off. I try and literally shield myself from men that are trying to approach me in some way that I find inappropriate. Just so you know. I'm not a man hater at all. I feel bad for men because they have to put up with the kind of shit that Justin Baldoni comes out with on his podcast, and it's confused them. I will say that. Right? I'm literally just reading the deposition. And I'm like, how can you be blind to the fact that they're talking about the experiences of people that work in their company and it's not good? And yet all along, they've promoted this image of trying to get rid of toxic masculinity and supporting and listening to women, because that is not what it's coming across. If you want, Charlotte, at the beginning of the video, you missed my introduction where I did a little bit of a deep dive into Shane Norman and his very successful Zeus Network streaming company and the content that they put out on there, which they were doing before Justin and Steve Sarowitz hired him. So yeah, that's all I've got to say to you for now. We're going to find when we do our research, but this is where we're at right now in January of 26 with this deposition. Let's get back to it. Oh, got a temporary glitch. There we go. Okay. Did she tell you that? No. Did you talk to her when she quit? No. Did you read anything that she wrote about why she didn't want to be a co-host anymore? I believe it was shown to me, yes. Do you recall what it said? I can't recall exactly what it said, no. Was it not important to you to understand why Ms. Plank wanted to discontinue a 3-year-long professional relationship at that point in time? Objection. Can you ask the question a different way? I can try. You said you didn't talk to her after she quit. No. And you didn't reach out to her to talk to her? No. You weren't interested in hearing from her perspective on why she didn't want to be co-host of this podcast that was very important to you anymore. Objection. That's not it at all. So what is it? Objection. My memory, if it's correct, was that when she resigned from the podcast, she had asked to pass on that she didn't want anyone to reach out to her. Who did you hear that from? I believe the person who runs the Man Enough podcast. Who is that? Terror. Terror? His name is Terror T. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, first and last name, please. Right, I'm having a hard time thinking of his last name right now. Forgive me. Okay, so it's someone named Terror. Former, we don't currently have a Man Enough podcast, but he ran it, yes. And Jamie was also the one who informed me. Okay, so someone named Terror and Mr. Heath informed you that Liz Plank did not want to be contacted, that she didn't want anyone from the show contacting her. Did they tell you why? No. Did you ask? I assumed. What did you assume? I assumed that she didn't want to have a conversation about why she left. Okay. And I tried to respect that. On the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people to start your day? But I remember that, because I actually came across a TikTok earlier today by mistake. It was one of the TikToks from the 8th of August, 2024. And the account name was not Claire Danes, which I just thought was a weird name. But anyway, she had all the talking points. And one of them was that Liz Plank made an Instagram post or a story on the night of the screening, on the premiere. And she never tagged Justin Baldoni. She tagged Blake Lively, apparently. So I have a feeling, Justin, that you might have known a bit more than you're letting on here. Right. Objection. Did I read that bit? We're moving on to hugs. Also, he doesn't even know the names of the people that work for him on his podcast. A genuinely lovely guy he is. Cares about everyone. On the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people to start your day? I think some people would qualify me as a hugger. Is that a yes? I think I'm going to have to wrap it up in a minute. This is too good. I have really enjoyed tonight. Objection. I wouldn't call it a practice. I also have a practice of high-fiving people. So my question was, on the set of It Ends With Us, at any point in time, did you have a practice of hugging people or giving hugs at the start of the day? I wouldn't call it a practice. But if you ask a different version of the question, I might give you the answer that you want. Justin, why do you have to do this to us? Oh. Charlotte, why do you support this idiot? You can't be serious. Your lawyer is going to get really mad at you if you try to do that. Are there any days that you can think of where you begin the day by hugging multiple people at the start of the day's work? Objection. Sure, yes. On more than one day? Yes. Was it every day on the production of It Ends With Us? Did I give a hug to more than one person of his last, on every day? Every day at the start of the day. I'm sure I did, or got hugged. I don't know if it was exclusively giving. Did Mr. Heath? Objection. I wasn't with Mr. Heath all day, every day. Okay, on the first day of shooting, do you know if you greeted people at the start of that day, May 15th, 2023, with hugs? I don't, but I imagine I did and was given hugs too. Cast members and crew? Objection. Is that a question? Did you hug cast members and members of the crew on May 15th, the first day of production? I imagine hugs were exchanged between cast members and crew, including perhaps some people you had not met before. Objection. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe. I said on one of my previous videos, one thing I hated about working in the fashion industry towards the end was there was way too much unconsensual physical touching by people I barely knew. They didn't just hug, they did air kiss, like cheek kissing, cheek double kissing on every like shoot. At the end of the shoot, you'd have to go around, and it was really awful. And I used to go to meetings where people used to do it, and I remember like starting to feel like I didn't want to go to the meeting because I didn't want them to kiss me and stuff. It's just like, yeah, I totally get why this should be a boundary in the workplace. And I think that the Me Too movement has actually changed this kind of behavior for the better. That's just me. I'm not a man hater. I just don't like my boundaries being crossed without my consent because it's just awkward. Actually, when COVID came in, I was like, I really liked it. I was like, oh, now I don't have to shake people's hands as well. And some people get really offended if you don't want to shake their hand. So weird. Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe. Did you have any conversations before you hugged people on your set about whether they were comfortable with physical touching? Not any more than people had with me when they came to give me a hug. I think that's just an energy, like, no offense, but I wouldn't give you a hug, so. But I just think there's a human energy that two people maybe unconsciously exchange. I don't know if you believe, I'm not saying you have to believe in energy. I'm just saying that I think there's a human greeting when you're starting something that is going to be a journey, that's not going to be easy, where you're creating an environment. And oftentimes, like the way that I move through the world, I think I'm very open, and people would oftentimes will hug me. Present counsel excluded. No hurt feelings, sir. You were the director of this film, right? Yes. And you're a supervisor? Yes. And the policy that we walked through in some length, one of the things it references in it is hugging. Do you recall that? I do recall that. You also understand, because it's part of how you set up your studio, that there are power dynamics at play in the workplace, right? Objection. Yes. And you also understand, because you've spoken eloquently and admirably about many of these topics, about violence and abuse, that there are some people that have deeply held traumas that they have not exposed or fully gone through or talked about, right? Objection, of course. And that might include somebody that has had a trauma that makes them just feel uncomfortable with being touched. Absolutely. What's that word they like to throw around a lot? Tone deaf. Okay. You hugged Ms. Lively on multiple occasions on the set, right? Yes. Every day? Objection. No. How many times would you estimate that I hugged Ms. Lively? On the set. So not outside of the set environment, but at work on the set. Objection. Are these hugs? I'm so sorry. Sorry, are these hugs that I initiated, or are these hugs that I was a recipient of? You can characterize it however you'd like. I just want to be as accurate in my testimony as possible. Okay, as it relates to the hugging, that was my question. That was the question. Which one? You can include hugs that you believe you initiated and hugs you believe Ms. Lively initiated. Objection. Like, lump them all together? Sure, your best estimate. Okay. Number of times? Objection. Maybe a greeting and an exit. So at the most, maybe, again, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. That's my answer to you, Mr. Gottlieb. I don't know. Fair enough. And when you don't know, that's what I always want your answer to be. I don't know. Instead of I imagine, or if you say so. You see that? You see that? He does know how to answer a question accurately. Do you know who Vivian Baker is? Vivian Baker is Ms. Lively's makeup artist, I believe. Do you know that she testified under oath in this case? I assume her testimony would be under oath. Do you know that she testified under oath in this case? Yes. Are you aware that she testified there was a culture of hugging on the set that ends with us? Am now. Are you aware that she said that made a number of people uncomfortable? I find that odd. You find that odd? Why? Because Mrs. Baker was often the one that would run up and give me a hug. And because of that, you find it odd that she testified that a number of people felt uncomfortable with the culture of hugging on the set. Correct. Do you remember earlier when you testified about the hot tub? You're referring to what? Sexually harassed? When you were sexually harassed in the hot tub? Yes. Do you remember that moment when you thought, maybe I should do what this powerful person is suggesting what I ought to do? Objection. I don't know if I testified to having a moment where I thought maybe I should do what he's suggesting I do. Do you remember saying that to Glamour? I don't remember saying that to Glamour. Do you remember thinking that for a moment? Objection. I remember seeing his naked genitals inches away from my face before he walked and lowered himself into the hot tub and asked me to take off my pants. Okay, my shorts. I don't know if I remember feeling, should I? I remember feeling, how do I leave the situation? Do you think Ms. Baker was perjuring herself when she said that multiple people felt uncomfortable because of the culture of hugging on the set that ends with us? Objection. I'm not sure how my assumption of Ms. Baker's testimony would lead to perjury. Do you? Or do you not think she was being truthful when she said that multiple people felt uncomfortable about a culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? Objection. I think she was being truthful. That's not why I said I thought it was odd. That's not why I said I thought it was odd. Okay. Did you ever hear from anyone on the set of It Ends With Us that daily hugging was making them uncomfortable? There was a point in time that I heard that, yes. And when was that? That was from Ange Giannetti and I believe Alex Sachs. Do you recall when that was? It was early on in production, maybe first week or two. Okay. So that's in May of 2023. Objection. I have a feeling you know the date better than me. You wrote the timeline, Justin. So yes. And what did you do when Miss Sachs and Miss Janetti told you that certain people felt uncomfortable with the hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? Objection. I stopped hugging. Did you perform an investigation? Because people didn't want there to be as much hugging? That's my question. No. Did you inform anybody in HR? I did not. Even though hugging is one of the items that appears in your sexual harassment policy. Objection. I was unaware of any official complaint of the hugging. In fact, quite the opposite. Again, and we did this before, you understand, because we had this exchange before, that an official complaint does not need to be filed in order for something to violate the Wayfarer Studios SH policy, right? Objection. Correct. So, we're going to get on to the deceased father, but I might save that for the next episode because this has been awfully long. Is anyone still here? Liz jumped ship before Justin's scandal forced her to walk the plank. Nice one. Yeah, I don't really know too much about Liz Plank, but look, I think she probably, like everyone else that went to work at Wayfarer, didn't imagine what it was going to be like until they actually started working there, and it was probably a good job for her. So yeah, I can't be too mad at her. At the end of the day, you know, we've all had to work with toxic men in our lives. That's just the way of the world. The fact that these women are speaking out now that they're no longer employed by these people says everything. So yeah, because I mean, how would it benefit Claire Ayoub to make that testimony at this point in her career unless she really believed in what she does and she really felt that strongly about it? Because it's a really brave thing she's done there, I believe. I mean, there's still a lot of women that, well, not a lot, there's still a few there's still a few women out there that are still sticking up for him. So, you know, better late than never. But yeah, we still got people watching. They're not talking, but I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight, and next time we'll get on to the subject of I see dead people, because that's another one of his little fetishes that are not creepy at all if you're a Justin Baldoni fan. All right, people, thank you for keeping me company. I hope you enjoyed my little deep dives and my little extra bits of context and my little bits of getting frustrated with Justin Baldoni and his BS. I will see you maybe tomorrow. Thank you, Kayla. See you later. Bye.